Howdy, howdy. Welcome back to the Bonfire Podcast. Tonight we have Miss Stephanie Quayle. Stephanie is a singer. She's an author. She kind of does it all. A Montana girl. She has an incredible story and is also she's about to drop a very new book. Make sure you go check that out as well. We're excited to talk with her, and we'll see you inside. Hey, thanks for being here.
Hi. I feel like we became very fast friends.
I love it. I love it. I was like looking on your Instagram and I was like, this girl, if like I had to put like one word to this girl, It would just be Yellowstone. Like just
Thank you.
Have you watched the show?
Yes.
Of
I
course
actually
you've watched the
I was
show.
just interviewed by them they were on the CMT red carpet.
Uh-huh.
And they were like, what do you think's going to happen in season 5? I'm like, I'm going to be on the show. Come on.
Wait.
No, I'm putting it into their, like if they put that anywhere, be like,
totally
hello.
should.
Because I get asked all the time.
Well, you live in Montana.
Yeah.
Do you live in Montana?
Well, I'm born and raised. And we
okay.
still have a place there. So
Okay.
the town that they depict in the show is where I grew up.
Exactly.
It's nothing like that.
Gotcha.
And then Paradise Valley is where, where all the drama is. That's
Yeah.
where our place is. So I
Okay.
get a lot of,
Yeah.
I get a lot of Beth references.
Beth?
I don't know what I'm putting out there. I'm like, I'm like the G version.
The G version
Yeah.
of Beth.
Yeah. I'm
The
like
Disney version.
the very, it's
Oh
funny.
my gosh.
Yeah.
No, I love it. There's
Yeah.
something about, I don't know how to explain it, but something about just being out of the world, just with
Yeah.
nature, got the horses, it's just connected to God in some way. You can't describe it.
Montana is God's country. Like there's no
Amen to
question.
that.
When I ride my horses in Montana, I'm like, okay, this is heaven on earth. Like no question.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
yet to make it out there, but I have so many friends that have been out there.
Yeah.
Where's the, Madeline Merlot was talking last week about Banff. Where is that?
Oh, Canada.
That's in Canada?
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it for some
I
reason
think so.
Montana.
We'll check my geographical
Geographic.
abilities.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being here again.
Thank you for having me.
I'm stoked to talk to you because you got a lot of stuff coming out.
There's a lot of things,
got,
and
like-
there's a bunny adventure happening behind
there
you.
really?
There's bunnies.
I hope
There's
that's in the
wild
shot.
birds.
This is just the best.
This is amazing.
It's just the vibe.
Yeah.
It's just the vibe.
It's super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, so I want to kind of get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I know you've probably done a bunch of interviews and just told your story, but I want to first kind of ask you, like growing up, what did that kind of look like for you? Did you grow up in Montana?
Grew up in Montana,
Okay.
born and raised. Parents split up when I was super young.
Got it.
So my mom when she remarried, she married a veterinarian with a farm. So my dad, if you can picture, I mean, this is Montana. So when I say city, go easy on me.
Yeah.
So I was like a city mouse and a country mouse. So on the weekdays, I was with my mom on the farm. We had cattle and bison. I would help at the veterinarian clinic. And then on the weekends, I'd be with my dad, and my dad had the gun range. So it was a wild childhood. Yeah. But it was, the thing I love about it, it was so free.
Uh-huh.
I was such a free little, just dreaming and watching the clouds and riding my horses. And just, there was a freedom that came with, growing up on a farm. And then, the gun range, I wasn't as freewheeling, but.
I just shot a gun for the first time last week.
Really?
I felt like I finally accomplished my man card. I just I got it. Like now I can tell everybody I'm a man. I've got it.
Where are you from?
I'm from Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville,
Went
Florida.
to school in Orlando, Florida.
Okay, yeah.
Just moved to Nashville in August.
Okay.
And,
so you're having a lot of new experiences happening.
There's a lot happening here.
How did you feel?
What move? Oh, after I shot
Yeah.
it? I felt like I was ready to go shoot a deer.
Yeah. But you have you understand it now,
Oh,
right? It takes
it's fun. It's fun.
It takes the wonder out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love it. What
Yeah.
kind of stuff did you most enjoy, living up in the farmland stuff?
Earning my rides. I think that's where I really got my work ethic and drive was, a farm never sleeps. So there's just this, I don't know, there's just something about when you earn that freedom, when you earn that time to just rest.
Wow.
That's probably where it happened for me.
Yeah.
And I still love that. We're still, ranching and farming and doing the whole thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
At what point in your
This
life?
fire is getting wild.
I'm telling you, if it gets too much, just
well,
back
as long
up.
as it doesn't look like I'm on fire, we're you all
No.
know. You know your flames.
just tell us the word and we'll back you up.
Yeah.
And
No. I mean, as long as you don't see me getting like,
if you get burnt, like that's a huge lawsuit.
could you
on us, so
imagine? Like, where he's gone. Yeah. No. I mean, do you not think I'll start on fire?
Do what?
I want like my hair. Yeah. You're not worried.
I don't know. It gets close sometimes.
Oh my god! I'll just lean back.
Dude, honestly, we should probably have like insurance or something.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Here, I'll just be like ready. I'll be
Okay,
ready.
just be ready.
I'll be ready.
Just be ready.
I'll just do
At
this.
some point, it starts to feel actually pretty nice, but.
It's nice. It's really warm. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, so you grew up on the farmland and
Yeah.
stuff. At what, was faith kind of always in the picture for you? Or was there like
gosh.
a point? Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
My born and raised in it.
Okay.
So grandma was, had her like little Bible studies downstairs
Yeah.
with all the little old ladies, which was awesome. I always got in trouble. And that's where our, like the giving side,
Yeah.
I saw that, they gave to so many different missions, and she was just fierce for the Lord.
Yeah.
But I was born in it.
Yeah.
Right? I grew up in it. It wasn't a choice. It was, this is what it is. And my dad, same. We actually gave the gun range to the church. I put that in one of my songs.
Really?
Yeah. Our pastor was looking for a place. And so my dad gave him the gun range. So at
Wow.
one point there was like a rifle bay that was still kind of there, and
Yeah.
then the pulpit. It was kind of a moment. But honestly, faith has been such a part of my life. But I think what's changed for me, especially over the last few years, has been me getting out of God's way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because
Because I think for a long time, I'm like, I've got this.
Sure.
I had it. Never.
Yeah.
And so that's been, that's the beauty about the Lord. He's very patient
Yeah.
and very, very kind to give us the time to get there.
Amen.
And then with the album that I wrote about a time that I never thought I'd write, then writing this book, and amidst that, learning that I was already enough because I was born enough. And then getting baptized and reclaiming a day that was, used to be so grief-filled. I'm on a whole new, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for anything, and I have no idea what's going to happen next.
When did the baptized thing happen?
January 28th of this year.
Of this year?
Water baptized. Yes.
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
yeah. Also, family, parents, I had to call them
Yeah.
and ask them. I go, family, did I ever get water baptized? At like every Bible camp I went to,
Yeah.
they had no recollection.
Yeah.
And I have like a lot of amnesia in my brain with things. I'm like, all right, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And so I was actually recording the audiobook on a Friday. So it's January 26th.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then I drove to Birmingham, Alabama. And that following Sunday, the 28th, I got water baptized.
That's
And it was just like, when I've heard people speak of it,
Yeah.
right? I've never understood. And then when I got water baptized, full understanding.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with a feeling.
Mm-mm.
It's a state change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An outward demonstration of an inward change is what what I've been told.
Yeah. It was really something. And then I put it out on social media, and because I thought that's what you're supposed to do, like make your public proclamation. And my dad's like, you put it out on social media? I go, well, isn't that as public as you can get? And he's like, okay.
I guess so.
Yeah. I'm like, are we doing this or are we doing this? Like, I'm not
I'm all in,
interested.
Dad.
I'm all in or not at all.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
So you're talking to me a little bit about kind of getting out of God's way.
Ooh.
What specifically about that was like, what was that like specifically look like?
I think for me, I've always been very driven
Uh-huh.
and sought out this career in entertainment since I knew I wanted to be in music at 16.
Okay.
And then I just was like, I am going to make this happen.
Yeah.
And I've been that way for a
Sure.
long time.
Yeah.
And I think the missing part was the joy that comes with just being at peace and surrendering it over. But I didn't have that.
Yeah.
I didn't have that. And it got to a place that just, it wasn't fun. And I had to figure it out. I had to get to the bottom of like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with externally. Nothing to do with that. And no one else.
Yeah.
It had everything to do with my personal relationship. And that water baptism, I mean, it just was such a massive shift. I'm like, oh, none of this matters at all. So now how do I make what matters to me part of how I do what I'm going to do? What's that going to look like? So even the book, you know, I hadn't been water baptized when I wrote it. So as you read it, it's going to now, you're going to be like, oh, there's going to have to be a sequel.
Okay. Oh.
There will have to, because it's unfinished.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the main thing was, you know, I had the backstory. Back in 2009, I was in a relationship with a guy I thought I was going to marry. And I was raising his daughter with him, and I was sure, right? Like, also being sure of things is kind of silly. Let's just be honest. We have zero control. Zero. And it was a Wednesday, January 28th of 2009. And he died in a plane crash. Oh. He was piloting the plane. And I talked to him maybe 2 hours prior, maybe even less than 2 hours. His daughter was doing homework at home. I was making dinner. I had a show that night. And it was just like everything about that night is every detail I can remember. I cannot tell you what happened yesterday, but that night 15 years ago, I can like go right back. Wow. And so we race to the airport. We don't know that he's passed. And I'm just trying to get this little girl who, you know, is 12 years old. This is her dad. And to her dad, if there's one more moment. And he had already passed. So then it was shock and grief and trauma and all these situations that I had no idea what to do with, because no one gives you a handbook on grief. And no one can really say, this is how it's going to be for you. And 5 days later, so that was a Wednesday, so Sunday, we had a public memorial for him. And that's when I learned I wasn't the only woman. So my grief got truncated into just full-blown betrayal. And the wild part is now cut to all these years later. I've been with this incredible husband of mine now we've been married almost 9 years, together 10. And I realized I'd never forgiven the guy that passed away in the plane crash. So I was able to forgive him last January. But then this past summer, I realized, why am I still mad? What is still inside? I've got my health, my family's healthy, like success is whatever, you know, like it's happening. It's all like, why am I still angry? And it was because I hadn't forgiven myself. And then amidst that kind of realization is when the water baptism, like every Sunday I was watching online, it was like water baptized, water baptized. Have you been? And I was like, that's my missing piece, because just asking for forgiveness for myself, like for me to forgive myself, I couldn't get there. It was just a losing battle. And so then January 28th, it's like I was able to reclaim such a sad day and make it a whole, it's my rebirth. And I said to my husband, I was like, hi, you now get the new me, you know, and the yeah. And I go, now you get the best of me, you know? So it's been a really wild, super long, super short process. Yeah.
Well,
that's jam-packed. Was you expecting all that?
Well, first off, thanks for being so bold and sharing that. I mean, having to go through that and then having to realize that there was something else to it too. That, I mean, that's like a double whammy almost on your point. And the fact that there was forgiveness involved in that, like that shows a lot of character about yourself. And I think that's like one of the things that really, like why we wanted to bring you on the show. Cause we only see you from a distance, like online and stuff like that. But we really be intentional with that, about like who we bring on and like who we want to talk to. And so thanks for being bold with that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're so welcome.
I feel like we have to be.
You have to be.
Right? Because if I don't know, how can I ask others? Right? Like the book is fully exposed.
Yeah.
So if I'm not willing to be fully authentic, then how can I expect anyone to meet me there?
Right.
It just seems hypocritical.
Yeah. And it's amazing to me how the Lord uses kind of different situations to bring him closer to you.
Oh yeah.
Please.
No, you first. You first.
I was reading today when I was preparing, and this was kind of like what laid on my heart. I was reading in Ephesians, and it said, Ephesians 2:8, "For by grace you have been saved through faith, and it is not your own doing, it is the gift of God." And it was exactly what you just said. Like, it is like, there's no control.
No.
It's like, for a long time, and I'm kind of in the same spot as far as music goes. Like, I was always in a spot where I was trying to write music for other people.
Yeah.
And trying to write songs that, like, okay, yeah, people are going to vibe with this. And I just recently kind of hit a point where I was like, if I start writing songs for myself, and just speaking the truth, people relate to that. And for a long time, I had this idea that I was the hero of the story. I was the hero of the gospel story because I'm the one at 8 years old that chose to give my life to Christ.
Wow.
And
8.
It was 8. It was
That's
8
cool.
years old. Yep. It was 8, very young, but also like my dad was the one who introduced me to the Lord. And it's kind of the same moment with you. I was like, he told me about like water baptism and, the whole kind of gospel message. And at that point I believed and I confessed and I repented. And it was a really cool moment. But after that, I always had that thing, something in my heart that was telling me that like this was me, that like I was the hero of my story. I'd go to school and I was like, I'm a Christian now, like that. I did it, guys. Like, I'm pretty cool, I know. And that is just so not the gospel, because the truth is that God is the one that you can't even explain it, but it is only the Lord that transforms your heart. You look at the story of Paul, and I think me and Brooks were talking about this yesterday. It's like Paul would have continued to kill Christians if it wasn't for some sort of intervention that had to happen from God for him to literally blind him on the road to Damascus, for him to open his eyes and realize, hey, there's something else. The Bible says that any good gift comes from above, and anything good, that's including like giving your heart to the Lord. It is an internal change. And to support that, Philippians 1:6, I found, he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. And what
I had many conversations with Jesus about this.
What I love about that and something that when I was prepared for this, it's like I told myself with the Ephesians verse, Ephesians 2:8, I'm not the hero, because if I was the hero, that means that I had the capacity to choose Christ, which would also mean that I had the capacity to unchoose Christ. And Philippians 1:6 says that he who began a new creation will fulfill it to the completion at the day of Jesus Christ, meaning that once you're in, he is going to continue to be there for you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. It's powerful. It is.
If we just keep it simple. If we just get out of our own way and not complicate what you just said. He just wants us. He doesn't need us to have Grammys. He doesn't need us to have number ones.
That's hard.
He doesn't need us to sell out stadiums.
That's hard.
Yeah,
I think it's just human nature. It's like we want all those things. And I think it's a good balance to have goals and aspirations and stuff. And the Lord wants us for that. But you're so right. At the end of the day, my friend told me the other day, he's like, you could get into so many doctrines and theologies of the Bible, and you could break it down and interpret it this way and stuff like that. But if you don't get the gospel message right, you're losing everything. Because knowledge without application is useless.
Well, one of my favorites this happened just a few Sundays ago, because I watch, when I can't get to Birmingham, I watch Church of the Highlands online.
Okay. That's a great church, by the way. I watch that sometimes. Super great.
And Pastor Chris Hodges, I had seen him at a prayer breakfast in North Carolina. And his mess in the timing of it, it was just, that's what, like, I was like, all right, I think this is my guy. Like, I think I can learn from him and hear the word. And it was, and they actually had one of their guest pastors. I can't remember his name at the moment, but I'll get you the sermon, because it was so cool. because it spoke to me in that, this book is new territory for me. Like I can, like songs, I've been doing that a really long time. Books, this is different. This is just new. It's new.
Yeah.
And the message, and you'll know because you're very well versed, and I'm the worst at like remembering. But the verse in the Bible where the crippled guy he's been by the healing water for 38 years, right? Do you remember this? And Jesus comes to him.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jesus comes to him and he's like, do you want to be healed? And he's like, I can't get to the water. And Jesus is like, hey, do you want to be healed? Yep. Right? And he goes, pick up your mat. And the conversation that happened during the sermon was, had he just gotten up and walked away, then people wouldn't recognize him as the guy that was sick for 38 years. But the mat represented that so that people would identify him as being healed. And what happened in that moment for me, I was like, this book is my mat. This book is that for me, because people see me, right, on wherever, and they just see whatever this is, but the book is the story of the healing. And I was like, Dad, I never put that correlation together. And then I talked to my dad. I was like, Dad, like this book is my mat. He's like, what? And then we had this whole, and it was really cool. And he hadn't, and that's what I love. Like as you get into the word, which also is like the best treasure hunt I've ever been on. I'm like a rando, I'm like, okay, Lord, just leave me. Like, do you want me to be a janitor? Because if you want me to be the janitor, I will be the best janitor you've ever met, And it's just so great. It's like you need zero other entertainment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's just like the wildest adventure.
Yeah.
It's also super intense Old Testament. Goodness.
It is.
Really glad we're not back there anymore.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I personally love the Old Testament because everything in the Old Testament points to what's eventually going to happen in the gospel creation. And it's some crazy stuff that happens.
It's intense.
Like killings.
We'll have some other, I'll be like, man.
So those people were crazy.
I'm really glad. Jesus just came back. He's like, I'm gonna just handle this for everyone, so y'all can,
It's crazy.
Because can you imagine if we were still in Old Testament, like the way of doing things? Woo-wee.
It'd be crazy.
It'd be crazy.
So tell me a little bit more about music career. What got you involved in that, and what's new with that? What's going on?
Yeah. So I was always singing church choir, but you got to remember this is a very different time. I am quite older than you and quite a bit. And so it was just like my family thought it was cute. That's cute you sing. Like you'll be a lawyer. And then high school, small town high school, freshman year, got bullied by some girls.
Oh.
And that moment for me was like, okay, I've got to get out of Montana. How can I run away legally? And I signed myself up for an exchange program.
Wow.
And so that exchange program took me to Freiburg, Switzerland at 16. And there was a little band this far away, sitting at a little table talking about they were looking for a new lead singer. And me being very, shy. I'm like, hey,
that's me.
I'm an American and I sing. And they're like, oh, okay, well, come audition. And so I got the gig.
Wow.
And so that was my after school program the entire year I was there. And we made a little CD and we toured. And I felt like I finally made sense. Everywhere else, nothing really made sense. But when I got on stage, I'm like, oh, okay, this is where it makes sense. And so came back to Montana, just on fire for music. I didn't care what the genre. Like I would sing polka. If they needed, no, I didn't.
Wait,
but I would.
Polka? Am I lost?
Polka?
What
You've
is
never
polka?
heard polka song?
Polka?
Okay, we'll get you some.
We're
going to get you so well versed. You're going to be like, I know it all.
Continue.
So then I moved to LA, Los Angeles, because that was familiar to me. Nashville seemed like you have to be ready for Nashville. Yeah. You're not ready. Go cut your teeth in Los Angeles, which was insane. And I spent 10 years there. So I learned very quickly and slowly, simultaneously, about just the business, and the music business at that time was not looking for a Montanan in cowboy boots with a guitar with these little country songs. They're like, cute. Can you dance? And I'm like, I cannot. And yeah, it was so different. And so then I just got to the point where I'm like, all right, I'm just going to make my own music on my own terms, and I'll just find a way. And so I just got another job from my other full-time job, and I used one to pay my bills and the other one to make my music. And that was right at the same time. So this is like 2008, 2009. And then my boyfriend dies, and I'm not the same person. And so that music had no, gosh, I would be so curious to go back and listen to that voice before. Because the next time I finally got even the desire to sing, I didn't sound like who I was. And because there was so much pain that, in music we all can hear, and that's something you can't fake, And so then it was, okay, how do I do this? What do I do with this? And at that time, I even was very much of the mindset, if I'm going to do this, it has to be for more than just like fame and stardom. And I want it, like, how can I serve? Yeah. And then I moved to Nashville, 2011. And had a very crazy, so my book is about toxic relationships, and those even happen in business. And I had one that happened in my business, but God, is really precious about writing very wrong paths. And through that, I was able to fix a very terrible situation and start my own label.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I started my label, and it really started to get legs in about 2015. And started putting out music to country radio, and as an independent female, which was, and big boy radio, which was an adventure, and found some pretty amazing success through that. And we were going to start signing other people to the label in 2020. And then 2020 happened for all of us.
2020.
And that was the first time in my marriage that I was with my husband for more than like a couple weeks, because I'd always been on tour. Yeah. And it was so funny. I think the first month we looked at each other and we're like, I like you.
I like hanging out with you.
I get this. I understand what this, like if we were, like full time like this, we could do this. It was so funny. We learned so much about each other. Yeah. And just like the grace of circumstance. Yeah. Just like, there's nothing we can do to change this. Mm-hmm. So, we just, we lived through that. I recorded an entire album virtually, which was bananas. But again, you find ways. Yeah. And then spring of 21, this little girl that I've known since, she was about 6 or 7 years old, who lost her dad when she was 12, who's now a full-grown adult, is reaching out saying, I'm not going to hide or not share the secrets that I know about my dad. And she started painting her way through her healing, which then I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to, this is the closest little human I'll have as my own. I've got 2 incredible stepkids, but they're full-grown. And so I was like, man, if she can do it, if she can heal, if she can find her way, I got to go to my music, because that's the one place I hadn't put it. I couldn't touch it. And no one knew. Like in the industry, no one had any idea until I put the album out. And they're like, wait, what? I go, hey, remember when I wouldn't talk about like 10 years of my life? Here it is. Yeah. And then that's led us to all this now. Wow. And I kind of go back to all these moments. I've been saved so many times. Mm. There's no reason for me to be here in the physical. Like, so many times I could have been taken out. And So like, I'm okay. I'm like, okay, God, you have plans for me. Even if it's being a janitor, I don't really care. Like that's like my goals and my dreams and like my vision board. It's like, it's just Jesus and surrender. Like that's where I'm at. Cause I'm like, I just, I have tried to control, and
you and me both.
And there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. And so now I feel like me serving others is not only sharing my story, my testimony, but also like helping. I can't get back the time I lost. Yeah. Right. And there are so many things that I would have done differently had I known, but I didn't have this book. I didn't have that knowledge or that person saying, hey, like, run to grief counseling. Don't wait. Yeah. And in my case, I just didn't know. I thought I could. I can outrun this. When they say get over it, move on, I can do that. I'll find, I'm find a way, Quayle. Yeah, I got this. And that was really kind of shocking because it compounds. Yeah. And there's, it's like, God's not going to do it for us, but God will be there for us. Right? And I think that's the thing sometimes I have to keep reminding myself of. I have all that I need. I just have to keep showing up. I have to do the work. It's not just going to be like, oh, here, it's all going to be great now, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. It's taking up your cross daily and following me. Yes. And people don't want to take up the cross.
Well, it's a lot of work.
It is.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember even after getting baptized, I wouldn't wash my hair. Like I had holy hair. I'm
never washing
I am not washing. Again. I was driving home from Birmingham. I'm like, and like walking to my house. I'm like, hello. Like my neighbors were like, what is she on?
Who is this girl?
What's happening? I'm like, I got holy hair, and I legit did not wash it for like a week. It got like it was a little pungent.
Gosh.
And pungent. Yeah, that's a word. And, but one of the things that I was reminded of is that when you start walking in that kind of faith and just there's no, it just is, right? That's also when the devil will be like, oh, hey, I'm coming for you. Yeah. And I think that I was a little naive, even in my adult brain, to how potent and powerful. And it was such a reminder of like, okay, I must be doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because this is assault. Yeah. And I've gotta like, and why am I surprised? And of course, so I have to get stronger. Yeah. Mentally. Yeah. Yeah.
So getting stronger mentally.
Yeah.
Is there kind of a life verse or something that you go to constantly that kind of keeps you in check with that?
Gosh.
Is
there a verse?
Doesn't have to be a verse.
It's just really like the action. Mm-hmm. I get really quiet, which I know is shocking. But I get quiet and I get alone and I just pray and then I shut up and I listen. Yeah. And that has been the only thing that that's a guarantee. It doesn't mean it's a quick guarantee. Yeah. Right? Like, hey, can I get an answer really? No, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But that's probably the biggest shift I've had to be so intentional about, so that I can go out into the world. Yeah. So I can just be in my mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting because have you ever read the book The Elimination of Hurry? John Mark Comer.
No, but I love the title.
Yeah, it's great. I'm reading it right now. It's a difficult read, but it's good.
Why is it difficult?
So is it
big words?
No, he just kind of goes everywhere.
Okay.
Very fast.
Okay.
And maybe that's intentional because of the book title. Yeah. But it's a little hard for me to keep up with.
Are you reading it or audioing it?
I never do audio. I can't do audio. Okay. I'm so visual. Okay. Yeah, I gotta have the book. But so recently, what I'll do is I'll take a little morning walk. I'll go outside and I'll read this book and he talks quite a bit about being quiet and taking time to just get in kind of this I forgot the word he used. It's like your own personal solitude.
Yeah.
Because he says the only way to use the other 6 days of the week to hustle and do what the Lord is calling you to do is to take that day to literally experience the goodness of God.
Right.
And you have to be in that solitude there. And I have a hard time with that, especially just always wanting to be in control. And like, I mean, music stuff, it's like, I know like songs that are going to be coming out in December. And like,
I know
it's hard not to just like, okay, well, let's get it going. Like I'm ready to release it and stuff like that. It's hard, but it's so true. Having that time to just sit and be in the Word. Sometimes for me, it's hard for me to just sit and just kind of like listen. I guess some people are into that, but I hear the best, and I think like I would encourage people to hear, like if you want to literally like hear the Lord, like His Word, like those red letters.
No, I mean it's just it's effervescent.
It is.
It is the coolest. I don't know. I love humans, and yet I've never been so content by myself. Yeah. With my Bible. Yeah. Just like, it's the weirdest, not weird. It's just never in my mind would you be like, hey, you're going to spend tons of time by yourself in your Bible. Yeah. I'd be like, nah.
I mean, it is the best way to hear the Lord's voice. Yeah. And through prayer and getting into the Word, because there's promises in there, and you learn so much from it, and it is literally God's spoken word, and it's just like talking to God.
Well, and what you said earlier about like we know so much with such advancement, right? Because of the industry we're in, and a lot of that, it's hard to not be in fast forward. Yeah. And one of my favorite, when I think about like,
I also have pellets over there too.
My
pellets over there too.
My the verse that I have to frequent is, don't rob today thinking about tomorrow. I don't know where that is. I'm sure we can.
Don't rob today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do not worry about today, or don't rob today.
I thought it was rob. But I might be creating my own songwriting interpretations.
Now let's look at it.
That wouldn't be shocking at all. But I think that's such a potent verse, because one of the things we say with our little music team is be where your feet are. You know, I'm here with you right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not thinking about tomorrow. Yeah. I'm not thinking about what has to happen on my drive home. Yeah. I'm thinking about you. Yeah. And what I hope that our conversation shares for the listeners and viewers. Yeah. Right? And that's something I never used to do. I would always be down the road.
You'd be here, but you'd be there.
I'd be there.
That's the same thing with me.
Yeah.
I've had to learn through this podcast of how to do that.
I bet.
And just like, sometimes I'll space out, like sometimes because I'm like, okay, what's the next thing on my list? Something like that.
Sure.
But then there was our second episode, my first episode, I had a whole script. These guys know it. I had questions.
You were ready.
I was ready to go. I was prepared. And it was a good conversation, but it felt very forced, like on my heart. Like I was like always like, what's next? Like what's next? I couldn't tell you what she was talking to me about.
Because you were thinking about what you were going to ask.
Because I was thinking what I was going to ask. Second interview.
So normal also.
Yeah. Second interview, I'm like, you know what? Let me just try this. I didn't write a single thing, and we just had a conversation. And I could recite to you almost everything she was telling me because I was actively listening. And I think the same is true with faith too. It's like you can just be you can complicate things when you, instead of just reading, actively listening. Yeah. And even reading, it's like I'll be reading something sometimes, be like, what did I just read? Yeah. But actively listening to it is crucial.
Yeah. Patience is a tough one.
Oh, yeah.
Woo. I feel like just when I think I've got it figured out, I'm like, nope.
I'm with you.
We're going to keep learning that one.
We've got a lot of the same issues. I love this. This.
We're two peas.
Matthew 6:34 is, I think, what you were talking about.
Oh, what is it? Read it.
Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will care for itself. Which is actually one of my favorite verses.
Worry,
Same thing. Same thing, different shapes,
Oh, shoot. In my Bible, it's not messing.
In the Stephanie Bible, it's Rob, pretty sure.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. I love that. Well, you're super inspiring.
Oh.
And I think we're stoked for just what you're doing. And I wanted to give you some time to at least talk about your book as well, because I'm super stoked for it. I'll be honest, I was when I prepare for these, I was like, when I prepare for these, if we have an author on, I'll try to read their book before they come on. And I realized I couldn't buy it yet.
Well, don't worry. I will make sure you get a copy, because it will probably
I'll make sure to
lead to a follow-up conversation. I think that what I have discovered with, and now fortunately it's my story, and one part, it can feel like a memoir because you're reading, my story through my words. But what we did was we teamed up with Keith Campbell, who's an expert in narcissism. He's actually been teaching about it for 15 years. He speaks to my story in a very real world experience, so that when someone reads it, if they're in any of these situations, they get the tools, they get the terminology, they get the, hey, this is what this is. And that's, like, again, one of my hopes is that I won't get those years back. I won't get that time back. But if someone reads this and that gets them to grief counseling quicker, or gets them out of an unhealthy, toxic relationship faster, or gives them the tools to navigate whatever they're going through, and that gives them time back, that's like, okay, now I'm on purpose. That excites, that's inspiring. They say you don't need motivation, you need inspiration.
I love that.
And I think about that often, like, okay, people getting healed excites me.
That's awesome.
Because I think the more we do that work ourselves in our own world, then we're just better. We're not
healing others. Sometimes it almost heals us in a way too. Well,
and the idea of, like, and when I said this earlier, I've been really looking at the plank in my own eye. I'm very working on my own, right? Versus like, hey, you there, like, I got a giant plank in my eye. I'm very aware of it. It's like, deal with that.
I love that. And remind people that's listening the title of your book. It's it's a long one.
Why do we stay?
Why do we stay?
Why do we stay?
And then there's like a,
well, how my I'm gonna say it terribly, like how my toxic relationships can help you find freedom.
That's right.
That might not have been verbatim. Again, it could be like the whole Rob thing all over again.
Stephanie's Bible.
Shoot.
So I wasn't able to read it, but I was kind of seeing like what it was kind of going to be about. I saw the Amazon stuff, and a question that I had for you about it was, I know you can't give the full thing away, but when writing it or experiencing what you did experience, what are some of those key signs or red flags that you would look for that indicate maybe you are in a toxic relationship?
I think one of my ahas of recent, which is so fun because you like keep discovering things, just as like, that's the beauty of learning. I think that, how do you feel about you when you're by yourself in your house? Right? You're like, all right, I like me today. I'm doing all right. I'm like, okay. And then you go and you encounter this other person. Do you leave feeling bigger? Do you feel less than? And when I think about my minimization, and especially in that first toxic relationship, and I say first because there were more than one, I would cock my head and be like, that doesn't feel right. And I think that our intuition and our gut are such a God-given gift that yes, just Lord, hit me on the first that had I listened to me and trusted that, right? And that gift from God of just like, hey, something's not right here. Let that be enough. Like, be able to leave a situation without the information. I think that for me, after he died and learning all this stuff, I became an investigator. I had to get to the bottom of everything to make it make sense, because it was so many years of being misled and lied to and essentially told I was the problem, right? Yeah. From being told I was crazy and insecure and all these things. And now looking back, it's all very obvious, right? But I have the information now. And so I think that one of those initial signs is like, how does that other person make you feel? Are you questioning you? Are you questioning when you're throwing around words like insecure and crazy or putting down someone else, that's like some tricky territory.
Yeah.
And I've really found like, okay, how do I measure my own, like, okay, how am I doing about me today? I'm not talking about in a prideful way. I'm just saying like, okay, are we good? Are we good to go out in the world today? Yeah. You've been around people that you're like, man, that was awesome. Yeah. Like, I'm going to go write the greatest song. I'm going to go take on the day. Yep. And you are like on fire. Hopefully you haven't had too many where it's been the complete opposite and you're destroyed and diminished. And I think in romantic relationships, especially, it's very tricky because other people's insecurities and manipulation, it's so much is projected onto the other person. And, I've said this, and I mean no harm by it. Mm-hmm. I also think we have to take extreme accountability for words that we choose to use to describe others. Because when anyone uses a word like crazy, right, that is a very shut down word. And I think a lot of times it's misused in a way that someone doesn't get to then state their concern. Mm-hmm. And that was something that, I was like, oh, maybe I am, versus going like, wait, guy, I think we need to look at you a little bit further, I was like, oh, I must be the problem.
Must be the problem, yeah.
And I think that's a really, it seems obvious to me now, and at the time it was so daunting. It was, because I think another big thing, potential. Just if you utilize the word potential to describe someone else, like, man, you've got great potential. One day, they'll be really a great partner. No. No. Believe people. True. Believe people. Yeah. Right? When people show us who they are, we need to believe them. I was so good at potentializing. I don't even know if that's a word, but I could potentialize someone to the nth degree. Yeah. And completely miss all the danger. Yeah. Because I just wanted so badly to believe that people are good. And there are a lot of good people, and there are also a lot of bad people. And we have to heighten our own awareness so that we avoid the bad people. They give up on us. They go to someone easier. We get stronger. We get just like that mental toughness that comes with being in the Word and getting still and quiet and doing the work. Yeah. They give up on us. They're like, that's too much. She's got us figured out. We got to go find the next one. And then hopefully there's no next ones. The geese agree.
I love that. That's such a good word. I was, there was a verse I was reading today. Actually, I'm going to pull it up real quick. 1 Corinthians 15:33. I'm going to read this to you and I've also found a cool quote. 1 Corinthians 15:33. Okay. Exactly what you just said. Ooh. Summarized into something really cool. Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. Now, I'm not going to leave it with that because I think John Piper puts it the best. Okay. And he says, when you are surrounded by a society of emotionally fragile quitters, you start to see a good bit of this ethos in yourself. So spend time with people whose lives proves there's another way to live. Scripture says, be imitators of those who through faith and patience inherit the promises. Hebrews 6:12.
Love that.
And it's
who are you around?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did they say? Like the
show me your friends.
Your 5 people are. Yep. Yeah. You're
show
a
me
mix.
Your future. Yep. It's true though.
Yeah.
I have had multiple friends that have gotten into relationships because of potential.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And I do believe that people can change and that Lord can work in mysterious ways. I mean, I'm an example of that.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
Right. Yes.
But
Hello.
both of us. But you have to be cautious because you're exactly right. If you're dating because of potential, there's always
or marrying
because
or
of potential.
Thinking about getting married or into business with.
You've experienced that, yeah.
I don't know what you're talking
I
about.
don't know what you're talking about.
No, it is really something.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I was like the queen of like 100 chances, right? Like they got it wrong again, but let's just give them one more shot, you know?
Yeah.
And come on, Quayle, you know, like no. You've already seen the behavior. Yeah. So believe them. Yeah. You know, I got asked the other day, like, is, you know, and the word narcissist, I kind of, you know, like there's kind of a wide array of that word used when describing others. I had the extremes, right? I had the very dangerous side of that. Hello, bug. And oh, hi.
Look at that.
Yeah, right there. Love.
The Lord is here.
Hello, friend. And, you know, I was asked, like, can someone at that extreme, you know, when you're talking about like a sociopath, psychopath, narcissist, like we're talking, can they change?
Sure.
I was like, man, God can change anyone.
Look at the Old Testament.
But I have no, I'm not, I don't think it's, I don't know that there'd be another way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. That's, but I'm not a psychologist. I've not done that. I am becoming an expert in myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love it. Last question for you.
Ooh.
2 questions.
Okay.
So you get into this very healthy relationship.
Yes.
Now, tell me about setting boundaries now with somebody that it is a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries in a way where it doesn't become toxic in a way, or it doesn't become what you've experienced in the past.
Well, fortunately, he is the most patient and kind person. Yeah. So he knew that I wasn't done doing my work. But he loves me unconditionally. He loves me without conditions. And I didn't even know that existed. And I didn't really get it until I got baptized. Because when I heard him say that, I'm like, yeah. You know, yeah. That's just something people say, right? Yeah. But then I experienced Jesus's unconditional love and that forgiveness and that state of being change, or state of being just changed. And then I saw my husband in a whole new spectrum of, wow. Like, he stayed when he could have bailed. You know, he could have been like, you know, she's got a lot of work, you know. But he loved me fully flawed. And when I think of that Eric Church song, I'm like, loves me like Jesus does. I'm like, oh, such a good song. Yeah. Wish I would have heard it, but I did not. So I think, though, to your question, you know, where I've had to set boundaries and stay true to my healing and my growing has been just that daily check-in with myself. Am I falling back to any old behavior? Am I confronting courageously with kindness when things don't, you know, I mean, marriage is still marriage, right? There's still going to be times where you're like, wait a second, we got to talk about this, you know, but it's how you talk about it. And yeah, he's kind of just really awesome. So I'm like, I'm trying to like figure out how but yeah, it's, you know, it's so funny. My little brother, who's just this incredible, just the way he loves God is just phenomenal. And when I was dating toxic number 2, which you'll read in the book, we referred him as the prince, and not because he was a prince. My little brother at that time, and this was when Facebook was really big, right? This is like 2011 or 12. Oh my goodness. And he posted that he wanted for my birthday a land-owning Christian cowboy. It's very specific. Something like that. I'm like, Tyler, you can't put this. I'm in a relationship with this toxic guy. Like, you cannot do this. And he did anyhow. He's like, no, that's what I want for you. And it's so, talk about interceding on my behalf, because David's just beyond what I ever could have put down on paper. Like, God, can he be this, that, like, get specific. And it's just as my relationship with Jesus has just become my everything.
Yeah.
My love for my husband has transformed.
Wow.
Because there's just, it exists.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that was actually possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now in business, I have boundaries for days.
Yeah.
Like I said this the other day, I was like, I can make more money. I cannot make more time.
Mm-hmm.
So that is not up for wasting. That is not up for being frivolous with.
Yeah.
So I wasn't particular about my time, right? I was like, yes, do everything.
Right.
And now it's like, no.
Right.
Which is new. No, it's new.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Just like how we spend and where we spend and what's the impact of the spend.
Right.
Because we're never getting this time back. I don't want you to leave here and go like, that chick wasted my time.
Hey, no.
That would bum me out so much because it's precious.
Well, I can tell that you're here. I can tell that you're here. And I'm here.
Yeah.
And I love
we got our
this
smoke, we got our bugs, we got our geese. It's epic.
But one thing I wanted to finish with is I love that. It makes me happy to know that your husband is a walking definition of what unconditional love is. And it is so crucial, I think, to find that in a potential partner. But also, I think it's just so cool because it relates so much to what the gospel is.
Yeah.
The Lord is literally the definition of unconditional love. The only reason that we understand what unconditional love is,
right?
Unconditional love is because of Jesus.
Yeah.
And if you're listening tonight, know this, that the gospel message is this: because of how broken and dumb and issued we are.
Yeah.
I mean, you can hear it from both of us tonight.
Yeah.
God has to deal with that sin.
Yeah.
Right? It starts with, because of God's justness, he has to deal with that brokenness. He has to deal with that sin. He has to deal with what Adam and Eve screwed up with, right? Because of God's mercy.
Yeah.
Because of God's justice, there had to be a payment for sin.
Right.
Because of God's mercy, that payment was delayed.
Yeah.
And because of God's kindness and love, unconditional love, that payment was made for us on behalf of Jesus.
Yeah. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
It's, kind of like, it's intense from the standpoint of like, we will never, and I know we have both felt a lot of things.
Yeah.
And we've suffered great loss.
Yeah.
But we will never have to feel the pain.
That was kind of iconic there for a moment.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's like when you think about the pain and the suffering that he went through for us, it's like, why would you do this for us?
Yeah.
When we keep screwing it up?
Yeah.
Like, we just humans are really bad at this, like really bad.
And he continues to give himself.
Continues. And all he wants is us.
Yeah.
In all our just yuck.
Yeah.
I was reading I'm reading like the you read the Old Testament, New Testament, a Psalm, and a Proverb.
Mm-hmm.
And today it was about I'll show it to you after.
Okay.
But and I'll just, someone watches will be like, that's this verse. I know you're better than me.
Yeah.
I don't know where all the things are.
We should just have like a laptop around, just Google.
I'm also like but I do know.
I get it.
That it was talking about the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pharisees talking about I'm not a this and I'm not a that and I give you 10%, and it was very self-glorification.
Sure.
And then the tax collector just goes in and he hangs his head and he's like, just thank you. I'm a sinner. Like thank you. And it was so simple, and it wasn't comparison, it wasn't judgment. It was just like, hey, here I am and all my garbage, and you're still willing to love me and show up for me and give me chance after chance. And every time that I screwed up, speaking from firsthand, you still show up. And I have been, and I speak about this in the book. So I have been, what would be the word? Careless with God's creation, meaning myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the saddest parts to write about in the book was when I considered taking my own life. And that broke my heart for that version of me, that younger version that just didn't know and didn't have the wherewithal. And also, like, what a gift that I can now share that and say that we just are making it way harder than it needs to be. And it's really so simple. And we just have to show up. We don't have to show up with anything except ourselves. Yeah.
That's a good word. I'm so happy that you did it.
I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be sitting here
No.
preaching that message to these people listening.
And I think that's like the blessing of all this is we get to tell our stories, and that's how Jesus taught. It was through storytelling.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you do this and you do that. I mean, he did, some of that, but you know what I'm saying? It was all in these parables of like where you couldn't get the image out of your mind.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why as songwriters and as writers and as storytellers, that's part of how we serve others. That's how we can share the message in its simplicity. And that's why music is so powerful. And that's why it can be also so powerful.
Yeah. So
you gotta be real aware of what we're singing about.
Yeah, you're right.
Quayle.
You're so sick. Thanks for being here.
Well, I'm not contagious.
Dang.
Is that what the young people say when you're like, you can hang out?
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks so much for being here. We're super stoked for your book. Seriously.
Oh, thank you.
Plug it real quick. So when's it coming out?
April 30th.
April 30th.
Why Do We Stay?
Why Do We Stay?
There will be an audiobook.
Okay.
There's like a workbook, audiobook, and all kinds of.
And it'll be on Amazon.
Any place you can find
stuff.
a book. Independent bookstores.
Cool.
You can call any bookstore and they will get it to you.
Okay. And where can people find you?
I am on the internet.
On the internet.
StephanieQuayle.com for tour dates and all kinds of fun stuff there. And then all social media galore. And I love getting messages direct. I love humans and those human conversations that happen from cool conversations like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lastly, if there was one piece of advice you could give little Stephanie, what would you say to her?
You are made in God's image, so you don't have to do anything. Just show up. Like, you are already worthy. That's it. You're already worthy. You don't have to earn that. All you have to say is like, Jesus, I'm yours. Simple.
Yeah. Mic drop. Just
wish I could have told her that. But I get to tell her that now.
That's right.
You know?
And you're going to tell her that for the rest of your day. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you're telling, your boyfriend's daughter that.
Yeah,
as well, too.
she's gosh, man, what a gift. People have asked me like if you could go back.
Yeah.
And again, it's like she turns to salt. Who's Our Lady?
Turns to salt.
She turns to salt when she turns back. My verse, where is that? It's not Saul's wife. Is that Saul's wife? No. When they're leaving, she's told not to turn around. And she turns around, she turns to a pillar of salt. Who's my girl? Is it Saul's wife? I love editing.
Lot's wife.
Lot, thank you. I knew it was a 3-letter. Lot's wife, thank you. So, no, Lot's wife.
Mhm.
It's like we have to look forward.
Yeah.
But when I think about my life, had it all not happened exactly how it happened, and not had the grace and the mercy of our Lord, like I wouldn't be with the love of my life.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be where I'm learning to love myself, and just in my own, and I don't mean that in a weird, like Jesus loves us. We need to love us too. Like we're really hard on ourselves, very self-critical. We put these like, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know. Firsthand.
And yeah, we just, I could go on and on, but I know we're wrapping up because you already said, what would you tell your younger self? And here I went again.
No, I love it.
To my Lot's wife.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Don't even look back.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. We can't wait to have you on again after a sequel,
Ooh,
maybe.
I can't wait. Well, yeah, and you have to read the book. You gotta let me know.
I will.
You gotta be like,
Honestly,
hey.
I was real close to pre-ordering it, but I'm like, maybe I could just ask her for a copy.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I wrote it, so I should be able to do that. Could you imagine, like,
slip her some cash under the
be
table?
Like, yeah, no, I can't wait. I look forward to your feedback for sure. Like what your takeaways for sure.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's a wrap.
Okay.
That's a wrap. Hey, if you liked that video, I think you'll really like this one right here. Make sure to click that to check it out. And also make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss the next one. We'll see you guys soon.